It had been nearly a year since the events of the Red Banquet, a day that nearly ended in the death of half the SMP. Since then, the egg sat dormant, its influence locked behind a thick layer of obsidian in the deepest, darkest corner of the server. The people had done their best to forget the events of that day, but little did they know, their days of peace were numbered, as the actions of one player would set the egg free once again, leading to the deadliest conflict in the history of the server.
Really quick, make sure to like the video and subscribe, as I'm literally going full time on YouTube in just a few weeks, which means a lot more videos, including my Dream SMP Grand Finale. So click that subscribe button and enjoy the end of the egg.
It was a normal day. The sun shined bright on the peaceful land of the Dream SMP, and in the wake of Dream's return to absolute power, the server had been unusually quiet. Eerily quiet. Bad Boy Halo made his way down Prime Path, noticing a strange absence of life in the once flourishing server. And so, when he saw Sam standing at the end of the path, he knew he had to go say hi. But as he approached his friend, something felt off. He tried to say hello, but Sam didn't answer. He just stood there. Curious what was going on, he greeted Sam again. Nothing. Until, out of nowhere, he cried out, "Sam Bucket!" Bad laughed. He was relieved Sam was just messing with him and decided to play along. And as Sam just continued to repeat the words, "Sam Bucket," Bad decided to see what would happen if he gave Sam Bucket a bucket. But as he tossed over the spare bucket he happened to have, this strange act only got worse. For the rest of the day, Sam followed Bad everywhere he went, only speaking the words, "Sam Bucket." Annoyed by his friend, Bad decided to lure Sam to the prison with more buckets and trap him in an obsidian box to hopefully buy himself some peace and quiet. And having definitely bought himself a few hours with the trap, he decided to craft some buckets to prepare for when Sam eventually escaped. Bad couldn't believe what he saw. Just moments ago, Sam was trapped behind 3 layers of obsidian. And yet, here he was. Concerned, Bad ran away, managing to evade Sam and hide by Foolish's temple. But as he started building something to take his mind off what just happened, Sam showed up again. But to Bad's surprise, he acted completely normal. Bad asked him why he was acting so strange earlier, but Sam had no idea what he was talking about. Bad was confused. Did Sam just forget everything that just happened? Was this all part of the joke? Or was there something bigger at hand? Sam was concerned for his friend. He hoped Bad wasn't starting to go crazy, as the last time he did, it nearly killed everyone. But despite his concerns, Sam decided to let him believe in this Sam Bucket guy as long as it wasn't hurting anyone. A few days later, Bad returned once again to Foolish's home. As he made his way out of the portal, he froze. And standing in the distance, staring directly at him, was Sam. A bucket, clutched tight in each of his hands. Bad's annoyance gave way to fear. What was making Sam act this way? Was this thing even really Sam? And what did it want? Other than buckets, of course. He decided to give him a water bucket to see what would happen. And upon receiving Bad's gift, he ran. Confused, Bad decided to follow Sam to see where he was going. He trailed him across the server, nearly making it all the way to Las Nevadas before Sam stopped in the middle of the road. He looked around, before setting his sights to the left of the path and walking off into the surrounding forest. Bad couldn't help his curiosity. and continued to follow him. Sam ventured deeper and deeper into the dark forest, until a faint path began to appear beneath him. Wherever he was going, they were close. Sam followed the path to a small clearing, the moonlight painting the grass a midnight blue as it waved in the cool wind. A running fountain sat in the center of a series of strange pillars. Bad approached with caution, stopping just behind the tree line to make sure he wasn't spotted. Sam wandered to the other side of the fountain, constructing a strange marking on the ground. Chills crept down Bad's spine as his mind spun with the fear of what he was witnessing. Bad moved closer to get a better look, spotting the names of him and each of his friends written on the pillars. He trembled as he watched Sam place the bucket Bad gave him on the pillar with his name. His heart pounded out of his chest. What kind of evil ritual was going on here? He needed to see whose names were on the rest of the pillars, and so he carefully snuck around to the other side of the clearing, eventually stopping on top of a tree. But then, Bad woke up, petrified. He looked around in fear, but nothing seemed to be out of the ordinary. He wondered if what he saw was real, or just a bad dream. He made his way outside, finding Sam, who was once again completely normal. He explained what happened and led him back to the clearing in the forest. But there was nothing there. Bad was confused. Everything he saw was so clear, so real. Sam was now extremely worried for Bad. He feared he was witnessing his friend's descent into madness once again. And this time, he wouldn't let things get out of hand. Sam explained to Bad that he isn't well, and that he needs to accept that these things he's seeing aren't real, or it may put him and others in danger. Bad was angry, but he knew Sam had a point. And so, for the next month, Bad tried to forget about Sam Bucket, convincing himself that what he'd seen those days was nothing more than a fabrication. A strange reality drawn from the darkest corners of his mind. A month later, he met Sam again. Bad still struggled to accept his new reality, but deep down, he knew he had no other choice. Sam suggested Bad get some rest, wished him well, and went on his way. He wondered what could be causing Bad to lose his mind. The last time he saw Bad this messed up was when he was controlled by the egg. Of course, hallucinations, strange distortions of regular people. The egg was the only thing that could be behind Bad's loss of sanity. Right away, he rushed down to the banquet room to see if somehow the egg had been released again. And as he made his way through the thick vines that covered every crack of the deserted room, he was horrified at what he saw. The egg was back. Sam was overwhelmed by fear. Fear of what the egg might do to the server after it returned. Fear of what it's already done. But scared as he was, he knew he had to investigate further. As he looked around, he noticed something strange next to the egg. A dark entrance to a tunnel leading farther underground. And as much as he didn't want to, he knew he had to check it out. Sam entered with caution, carefully exploring the infested halls. He made his way deeper into what now looked like a stronghold, spotting strange messages written in red on the walls, as well as a series of diaries detailing the unknown author's encounters with the egg. The deeper he descended into the cave, the stranger it became. Rituals, a strange abandoned house, buckets, everywhere. Eventually, he found himself in the strangest room of them all. The deepest, darkest corner of the maze of tunnels. vines gripping the walls, candles scattered on the floor, and what looked to be a red portal on the other side of the room. Sam slowly made his way inside, wondering where he was and who would create such a horrifying place. He heard a noise from behind him, and turning around, Sam couldn't believe what he saw. It was like looking in a mirror. Sam Bucket was real. Sam bolted for the exit, scrambling as fast as he could down the dark hall with his twisted clone close behind. He ran, managing to quickly climb a set of stairs before escaping to the surface through a ladder. He ran and ran, eventually finding Bad outside his house. He explained everything. Bad was shocked. This entire time, this strange version of Sam had been working with the egg. The egg was finally back. Right away, the two agreed that they had to go down there together to figure out the truth about Sam's strange twin and put an end to the egg for good. The day had finally arrived. Bad and Sam stood outside the entrance to the banquet hall, weapons in hand, ready to face the evil that lie beneath the surface. The two took a deep breath and jumped down the tunnel. Carefully, they made their way down the path and into the hall. It had been nearly a year since Bad was last here, the vines serving as a painful reminder of the history of this terrible place. The two made their way down the path and over to the table. But something was wrong. As Bad glanced to the corner of the room, what he saw terrified him. The egg was gone. Sam decided to leave to tell the others about what they'd found, and instructed Bad to stay right there. Bad agreed, and continued to investigate the room as Sam headed out to find help. Until Bad heard a sound coming from across the room. And turning around, he froze. Sam Bucket had found him. Bad's eyes scanned every inch of the room for an exit, but he found nothing. His only escape was to descend further into the tunnels. He ran, finding himself in the same eerie halls Sam had explored a few weeks before. Dark messages, abandoned rooms, Bad's fear grew with every step into the darkness. Bad hid as Sam wandered aimlessly, searching the endless maze of halls. As long as Bad could stay hidden, he could focus on trying to find a way out. He waited for Sam to move out of sight before sneaking into the hallway to search for an exit. But every room he entered was increasingly disturbing. Until he stumbled across a strange wooden house. How this house got here or why it was so far underground, Bad didn't know. But what he did know is that Sam said there was an exit nearby. Bad searched the outside of the house, spotting a small path cutting through the wall. But as he walked around the corner, he couldn't believe what he saw. Lying in the middle of the room, as vines hung from the ceiling and climbed the bright red walls, was the egg. Its evil red glow permeated through the air like a disease, and Bad could feel its gaze, like a lion eyeing its next meal. Sam Bucket emerged from the shadows, and Bad ran in fear, quickly entering the house and slamming the door behind him. He was trapped. Sam circled around the house, looking for another way inside. Bad didn't know what to do. It was only a matter of time before Sam broke in, and he had nowhere to run. Bad scrambled back into a corner, narrowly escaping down a trap door. He descended even further underground, finding himself in what looked to be some sort of storage room. Large chests covered the walls, and a picture of what seemed to be Sam's dog hung on the center of the stone. Having his back against the wall, Bad decided to search the chest to see if he could find anything useful. Opening the first chest, he found a series of books, which seemed to be journals written by Sam. He checked the others, finding more of the same. And so, with no other choice, Bad figured he would read the journals to try and get an idea of Sam Bucket's true intentions. And what he discovered changed everything. Sometime long ago, Sam lived in peace with his dog Francis and many of his friends. He was happy. Every morning he went mining and wrote journals to pass the time, before coming home to his dog, going to sleep, and doing it all again the next day. He had everything he could ever want. Until the cruelness of the world took that away from him. His dog Francis had passed. He wasn't the same without his best friend. The world, everything he did, felt empty, meaningless, lonely. He spent his nights wishing he could see Francis just one more time. If only there was some way to bring him back. Until one day, while exploring a ravine, Sam discovered something he'd never seen before. A glowing red vine sprouted from the dark and colorless stone. Curious, he decided to dig around the vine to see if he could find where it was coming from. And after days of mining, he found it. The vine seemed to be sprouting from a small egg that had been buried deep underground. Sam looked in awe at this strange new discovery. He'd never seen anything like it. Later that night, he described the discovery to his friends. The vines, the deep red egg, everything. Some were drawn in by the mystery, but others feared the unknown force Sam had just freed from its cage of stone. Every day, he spent more and more time with the egg. He began to hear it speak to him, promising him miraculous things, promising him it could bring Francis back if he'd just help it grow. Sam felt like he had a purpose again, like he was part of something much greater than himself. And if anything, he had to help. For Francis. He began planting vines everywhere, watching as the evergreen forest bled to a deep red. Every day, he bowed at the feet of the great egg, vowing to obey its every command. But many of his friends didn't take too kindly to this new obsession. This egg was a parasite, feeding off the life of the forest, killing it in front of their very eyes. But upon expressing their concern to their friend, he turned on them, destroying every last person that stood in the way of the egg, every one of his friends. But somewhere underneath his utter devotion to the egg, he knew what he was doing was wrong. In his desperation to reclaim the one thing he'd lost, he destroyed everything else he had. He looked around in pain. Was this the world he wanted Francis to come back to? No. He needed to stop. And after some testing, Sam Bucket had a breakthrough. Iron. Iron was its weakness. It wouldn't last forever, but it didn't need to. He just needed it to buy him enough time to get rid of the egg for good. And so, covered head to toe in iron armor, he mined, block by block, burying the evil deep beneath the surface. Finally accepting that Francis could never come back. For a promise made by evil is no promise at all. And so, as the years went by, the world changed. New people made the land their home, and the egg remained trapped, waiting for the day its next victim would stumble into its radiant red trap. Bad was overwhelmed with guilt. Everything Sam Bucket had done to save the world from the egg was undone the day he uncovered it. Sam wasn't trying to help the egg. He was trying to show Bad how to stop it. And as Bad made his way back up the ladder, he finally explained to Sam that he understood, and was ready to help him end this once and for all. Together, the two faced the very thing that had ruined both of their lives, iron in hand, ready to bury it once again. And so, together, they built a wall of iron, blocking the egg's path to the surrounding caves. But as they began to cover the final exit, Sam decided to stay behind. Bad was confused, heartbroken. He wondered why Sam was choosing to do this, but he knew it wouldn't be long before the effects of the iron would wear off. Sam gave him one final nod before sealing the exit, trapping himself inside. Bad bolted for the ladder, finally free from the darkness and the evil of that strange place. At last, the era of the egg was over. And with that, he could finally live at peace with his mind, knowing that it can't hurt him or anyone else ever again. But little did he know, just a few months later, the actions of one person would free the egg once again, beginning a series of events that would threaten the lives of everyone on the server. After her heroic actions at the Red Banquet, Puffy had retired from conflict on the server, opting instead to help people, offering therapy to the people on the server who struggled to stay sane after being threatened by an evil cult or having their country blown up one too many times. A much-needed service amidst the chaos of the SMP. And so, on October 23rd, many of Puffy's friends wanted to show their appreciation by throwing her a birthday party, giving her a day to forget about the problems of the world and just enjoy the company of her friends. As Puffy made her way toward her house to make some final preparations, she spotted Ponk and decided to stop and chat. Ponk had had a rough few months, losing his arm to Sam after stealing a key to the prison and somehow getting it back. Puffy didn't bother asking how, as she knew she probably didn't want to know, and so she continued down the path. But her next encounter wouldn't be so friendly. As she ran into Sam and Bad, they sounded frightened. They told her all about their strange experiences with the egg and Sam bucket, and warned her that the evil oval may have been let loose once again. Puffy didn't know what to say. Just the thought of that thing being back sent chills down her spine. And so she quickly thanked them for their warning and continued walking to her house, hoping not to think too much about what she'd just heard. But upon arriving at her house, her heart stopped, as her eyes filled with the deep, piercing red of blood vines. As much as she had wished Bat and Sam were just messing with her, they were telling the truth. Her fear quickly turned to anger after everything they'd done to destroy this thing, to stop it from hurting the server ever again. It was all for nothing. She began to remove the vines, eventually finding herself in a small tunnel shooting off from the top of the room. And as she reached the end of the path, she couldn't believe what she saw. The people waited for Puffy to arrive, wondering what was taking her so long. And after nearly 10 minutes with no sign of Puffy, Bad and Ponk decided to go check on her and make sure everything was okay. But it wasn't. As the two arrived at her house, they found vines everywhere. Bad couldn't believe what he saw. Just a few weeks earlier, him and Sam Bucket had blocked off the egg for good. It seemed no matter what they did, it just keeps coming back. The two ran as fast as they could back to the museum, alerting everyone of what they'd just found and bringing them all down to Puffy's house to investigate. Upon their arrival, the group panicked, before Sam managed to calm them all down enough to come up with a plan of action. Bad proposed that someone needed to go investigate the egg, but fearing Bad would fall victim to its influence, Sam volunteered himself to go, alongside Hannah and Aunt Frost. And so, the three made their way towards the labyrinth of the egg, while the rest of the group continued to investigate Puffy's house. As they descended into the dark red maze, Sam stumbled across an empty bottle labeled apple juice. At first, he was confused, but then he realized apple juice just so happened to be Bad's favorite drink. Was Bad already corrupted? Why was he so quick to suggest someone go investigate the egg? Sam didn't know, and so they had to go deeper. As the rest of the group searched Puffy's house, it wasn't long before they stumbled across Ant's seaweed and Hannah's roses. This led them to suspect that Ant and Hannah had something to do with Puffy's disappearance, a claim that was further supported when they discovered a pickaxe directly outside the tunnel connecting Puffy's house and the egg room. Someone had dug this tunnel on purpose, and as of now, it seemed like Ant and Hannah were the primary suspects, and they were both headed to the egg with Sam. As the three approached Sam Bucket's house, they found it completely abandoned. They had searched nearly the entire tunnel system, and still no sign of Puffy. Instead, the group found some bandages on the ground, which were immediately identified as Punk's. Had Punk already been down here? Was him recovering his arms somehow related to the return of the egg? Punk and Bad had both been corrupted last time the egg took over. Who's to say it hasn't happened again? And both of them were together, working with the other group. The three rushed as fast as they could back to the surface. Meanwhile, the other group headed down towards the banquet hall to confront Ant and Hannah. The two groups met in the spawner room, and with tensions high, the accusations began.
No, listen, we found a tunnel, and the egg was right there. It goes straight to the egg room. Someone mined it directly into Puffy's house.
Someone mined it.
What?
Someone who
Someone.
likes catnip.
What is this, Ant?
What is that?
What's that?
I guess where
We found that all over Puffy's house.
That's
Right next to
What are you trying to say? That I mined the tunnel?
Ant just went down
That's
into
what
the
we're
egg with
asking.
us. He went with us. Why would he have mined it and then gone with us and
Well, he
not?
mined it earlier.
Why did he
Yeah,
not do
why?
something? How would he
Well,
not?
he
Yeah, why did you ask
Mined
him to
it
go with you,
earlier.
Sam?
Okay, well, you want to bring that up, Bad Boy Halo? Answer this.
But it's
is
just
it?
one of my apple juice.
Guess where it was, though?
Guess where it was,
That's
Bad?
where it was.
It was
Right
in
where
the egg
used to
room,
be.
right where the egg used to be.
I've been in there recently. I might have dropped it.
He did go down there
Like,
with
I
Sam Bucket.
probably...
Bad, didn't we find something else down there too?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
we did.
but that's a
We
good
did.
Found some
point.
roses.
Explain that, Hannah. It was all over Puffy's house. They were all over the ground.
Okay,
Wait,
so I was
what?
giving
You had
Puffy
stuff
a
there
birthday
too?
present.
Oh,
No.
so you just walked into her house conveniently where the vines were?
Why don't we run it back to like something that's very obvious in the room here? You.
Oh!
How do you have another arm?
No, 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 no. I'm not having this. I'm not having this. You know, Sam, you know what I found down there? This. A piece of Fran's collar.
How did you?
But
Sam,
what you mean?
why would
It was
Fran's
down
collar be
there.
down there?
Fran's collar shouldn't be down there. I have to go.
Sam,
I'm
you
going.
must have been in
I'm going.
Puffy's house
I'm going.
too.
I'm going. It wasn't me. I'm going.
Sam left immediately to head back home and make sure his dog Fran was okay. And following this, the chaos died down a bit. The group split up once again, discussing the presented evidence and theorizing about what really happened. Ant and Hannah agreed that they trusted one another, and that most likely it was one or more of the other four that were responsible for this mess, as well as framing both of them. They knew that they had to stop the other group from breaking into the egg room, as it was clear that some of them were corrupted and would cause unimaginable chaos if they were able to access the egg. And so, Hannah left to gather supplies, while Ant went to search for Sam and inform him of the plan. Meanwhile, Bad, Aaron, Ponk, and CPK regrouped outside Punza's house to discuss their own plan of action. CPK pointed out that both sides had reasonable suspicion, and that it was important to take into account all evidence before making any accusations. But the other three disagreed. They believed wholeheartedly that Sam, Ant, and Hannah had planted the evidence to frame them, and wanted to keep them from entering the egg room so they wouldn't have a chance to destroy it. Bad reasoned that the only way to find out the truth was to break into the egg room and see it for themselves. The group agreed, but CPK was not completely sure that unsealing the egg was a good idea, and so he decided to leave the group and have a conversation with Ant and Sam. When Ant and CPK found Sam, he was devastated. His best friend and beloved dog, Fran, had gone missing. He feared the worst, and knew now more than ever that he had to do everything in his power to stop his corrupted friends. CPK agreed that approaching the egg was too dangerous, and although he wasn't sure which side was guilty, he had to side with the safest option. And with that, the two sides prepared for a final battle, a fight that would decide the fate of the server and reveal the truth behind this dark mystery. Tension filled every inch of space between the two sides. A cool fog cast a shadow of doubt over the dim-lit path. Both sides stood their ground, weapons in hand, ready for war. Bad ordered the four to step aside. He had to find out what really happened to Puffy, even if it meant facing the very evil that nearly destroyed the server all that time ago. He couldn't just abandon her. The four refused, stating that Bad only wanted to see the egg to set it free. But Bad reasoned that it seemed like there was something down there that they didn't want him to see. Neither side conceded, and it was clear this conversation was going nowhere. And so, they waited for someone to make the first move. Just a few days ago, they were friends. The looming darkness nowhere to be seen. But now was a different time. A time of betrayal, mistrust, desolation. And so began the final battle for the egg. Ponk rushed at his four friends, allowing Bad and Aaron to sneak past them and drop down to the egg room. Hannah, Ant, and CPK closely followed them, while Sam and Ponk continued to fight on the surface. Sam demanded Ponk let him through, but he refused. After all, he explained, it wouldn't matter in the end. The egg always gets what it wants. Sam froze, noticing an evil red glare in Ponk's eyes. His heart sank. This was a trap. Bad and Aaron hurried down the tunnel to the egg room, sealing themselves inside with obsidian to buy a bit of time. Walking through the twisted remains of the banquet hall, the two were overcome by a level of power Bad hadn't felt since that fateful day. But they knew to find answers, they had to go deeper. Ponk ordered Sam to surrender, revealing that he was the one who took his dog Fran a few days before, and that if Sam ever wanted to see his best friend again, he needed to do exactly as he says. Sam was heartbroken. Following his altercation with Dream, Sam was free for the first time in years, finally able to be happy, free of conflict, living a simple life alongside his best friend. But Ponk took that away from him, and he had to pay. The two made their way inside Sam's unfinished bank, Ponk explaining in detail his plans to torture Sam. Sam had nowhere to go, knowing better than anyone that there was no chance of reasoning with someone this far gone. It seemed like all was lost. Ponk drew his axes and prepared to attack. But what he didn't know is that Sam had him exactly where he wanted him. He had spent years trying to regain his freedom, and he wasn't going to let anyone take it away again. Sam placed a redstone torch on the wall, activating a stasis chamber at his base, instantly teleporting him away. And as Ponk looked around confused, he heard a quiet hiss coming from directly underneath him. conflict, betrayal, infection. All from this. The red shine of the egg filled their eyes like blood, every crack, every crevice, glaring with a painful definition. Everything else in the world was forced from their minds. This was their life now. And then they spotted Puffy, snapping out of its devouring gaze. If only for a second, Bad and Aaron were barely able to regain their thoughts before Aunt, Hannah, and CPK burst through the door behind them. They looked upon their old friends with a hatred reserved for their greatest enemies. To them, this was betrayal. Hannah explained that they would do whatever it takes to prevent another red banquet. And what they had done to Puffy was sick. Bad was angry. How could Hannah be accusing them? Bad argued that the only reason they wanted to stop him from getting to the egg was so they wouldn't find Puffy. Ant was furious. Every single time the egg has caused problems, Bad has been at the center of it. And he was sure now was no different. The two sides stood their ground, every last one of them dying to uncover just a piece of the truth. CPK jumped between them. He couldn't stand watching his friends tear each other apart. It wasn't like them. He reasoned that they should all calm down and talk this out before someone gets hurt. But little did he know, they had crossed the point of no return long ago, and tragedy was unavoidable. Aunt Frost drew his axe, jumping at CPK and striking him down. His friends screamed in terror, chills running down their spines as they felt an eerie similarity to Ant's actions at the Red Banquet. Bad and Aaron's fear quickly turned to hatred as the two drew their swords and rushed at Ant and Hannah. After everything they'd been through, together, the once inseparable group of friends fought, sealing their fate for good.
Why? How could you? He was our friend!
And you were my friend too, Bad, but you're trying to bring the egg back and I can't let you.
Why can't you listen to me? I told you, I have nothing to do with the egg. I even found a way to resist its effects.
From who, Sam Bucket? He's a figment of your imagination, Bad. Some crazy monster that no one else has seen told you iron was the egg's weakness, and you expect us to believe you? Even if you don't realize it, you're being controlled right now, Bad.
Don't you think I'd know if I was being controlled?
No, and I'm not taking any chances. I'm gonna kill you and break its control here and now.
Well, good luck with that.
You can't beat me, Aaron.
Funny. I was about to say the same thing to you.
I'm surprised to see you siding with Bad on this. Aren't you and Tommy friends? You know he hates this thing, right?
Don't bring Tommy into this. He has nothing to do with this. Bad hates the egg too. You guys are just wrong, and you're not listening to us.
Aaron, he's tricking you. He was the one who infected everyone with the egg last time, who infected me. He's the one who trapped all of our friends at the Red Banquet, and he tried to kill them all. I betrayed some of my closest friends, all because I trusted him.
Even if he was corrupted before, he's not now. You're just blaming him for your mistakes, Anna.
Maybe, but at least I'm admitting to them. I see the danger that the egg brings, the death and destruction it leaves in its wake. It can warp minds, Aaron, and it's already taken his. Why else would Bad want to come down here?
We only came down to see if the egg had anything to do with what happened to Puffy, Hannah.
Oh yeah? And how was Bad so sure that the egg had anything to do with Puffy?
Because there were vines growing in her house.
And how did those vines get there? Bad's been leading all of us on from the start. Once again, he's tricked us into coming down here.
I don't believe you. Bad wouldn't do something like that.
But how do you know? Look, Aaron, I don't want to fight you. I don't want any more deaths. If you really think Bad isn't corrupted, we can go get him and Ant and talk this out and we can settle this peacefully.
Really?
Yes, really. Now come on, we have to get out of this room before this thing brainwashes us.
Why won't you trust me, Aunt? If you didn't have anything to do with Puffy, then why can't you believe that I didn't either?
I can't trust you, Bad. After the banquet, I just can't risk it. Maybe you aren't infected by the egg, and maybe I am. but I can't risk it either way. If killing you's what I have to do, then so be it.
Fine. Then I guess I'll have to kill you too.
Hannah freezes at the door. A rush of something overcomes her. She turns slowly to Aaron, who unsuspectingly faces the back wall. Suddenly, every thought of peace vanishes from her mind. All she can see is red. She slowly approaches Aaron, ready to strike him down. Rage fills her eyes as she raises her axe and... Aaron looks up to find Bad staring back at him, as Hannah sinks mortally low into the raging lava. Aaron thanks Bad for saving his life and apologizes for what he was forced to do to Aunt Frost. Bad stated that he did what he had to, and that the two needed to get Puffy and get out before the egg pulls them in. But Aaron couldn't help but stare. He hadn't gotten a good look at it before the others arrived, but it was gorgeous. He was overwhelmed by a strange sense of power and wisdom emanating from its scarlet shine. Maybe the egg could help him. Bad stepped in front of him, demanding Aaron snap out of it. Nothing good has ever come from that lopsided dodgeball, and nothing good ever would. They had to leave. Aaron begged Bad to let him stay and speak with the egg just for a moment, but Bad refused. It was too dangerous. Aaron was finally starting to snap out of it, agreeing to leave with Bad, until... Bad locked eyes with Puffy, but it wasn't her staring back. Something about its gaze felt inhuman, like he was staring into the eyes of evil itself. The ground shook violently, the world spinning, red everywhere. This was the power the egg had been after for as long as it existed. It was finally ready to hatch. Through Puffy, the egg began to speak, her voice twisting with every word, a noticeable trace of darkness providing a cruel aftertaste to her familiar tone. And with nowhere to go, no one to go to, Bad listened. For thousands of years, the egg had sat waiting to be set free, waiting for some fateful traveler to stumble across its path. That day, Bad was chosen. He would be the one to fulfill its destiny. And he almost was, before the cavalry arrived. In its time in solidarity, the egg had realized that by entering the spotlight, it had made itself a target, a clear enemy to the wishes of the common man. And so, this time, it was much more careful. But it wasn't alone, as someone had been working in the shadows, planting evidence, instigating, causing the very chaos that drove them all to ruin. The true man behind it all, Skeppy. After Bad had taken his first life, Skeppy's obsession with the egg had faded. But his concern for his friend, who still remained trapped in its twisted red gaze, was stronger than ever. He was willing to do anything to protect his best friend, anything to make up for the terrible things he had said. And so, he went back to the one thing that took it all away. To bargain one last time. In exchange for setting Bad free from its control, Skeppy vowed to do as the egg wished, including leading the others to their inevitable doom. All he wanted was to have his best friend back, since the very beginning of their story. But, the egg explained, it didn't need him anymore. They had reached the point of no return, and now it was time for the final life to be taken. Puffy drew her sword, her will reduced to nothing in the face of the egg's unparalleled power. There was nothing Bad could do. he had lost. And it was finally time for the egg's true destiny to be fulfilled.